Welcome to the Virtual Office Hours, History of American Evangelical edition. I believe this is episode 5 of 6. Megan is telling me. Megan Piet, of course, behind the camera, as usual. Founding Fathers are with me. Quick story, I had a student come in the other day and just sort of, she was talking to me about an exam, and she was looking around the office and she goes, "Where are the Founding Fathers Pez dispensers?" And, I point, they're usually sitting over my shoulder over here, but we're here. And our focus this week, we switched books. We were discussing Nathan Hatch's book, The Democratization of American Evangelicalism. We have now moved to Christine Heyrman's excellent book, Southern Cross, The Beginnings of the Bible Belt. So we're still in the early 19th century, but we're moving into the South, and we're beginning to reflect on the ways in which evangelicalism played a role in the creation of what today we know as the Bible Belt. Heyrman's book really adds some depth and nuance, I think, to the evangelical movement in the 19th century. She begins with a chapter called The Language of Canaan. And here, as we discussed in class, the language of Canaan she uses as sort of a metaphor for the evangelical experience of the new birth and of the power of the Holy Spirit in the lives of evangelicals, and the sort of emotional connection that they have to God and the emotional nature of their faith. In a lot of ways, too, it's classic evangelicalism. It's the new birth. It's the belief in the Bible. And so forth. But what's fascinating about Heyrman's book is the way she shows that, at least in the late 18th, early 19th century, the South, Virginia especially, but also the other places in the South, are very much Anglican places. The Bible Belt as an evangelical phenomenon is really nowhere to be seen in the early 19th century, because there's still the remnant of that colonial and revolutionary era Anglicanism, a religious culture, and really a culture generally associated with order and hierarchy and rational forms of Christian faith. And then, of course, all of these more popular rituals that move the Anglicans outside of their churches into the various activities they get involved in, such as gambling and cockfights and horse racing and attending taverns and so forth. These are all the things that the language of Canaan, or the evangelicals of the day, mostly Methodists and Baptists, tend to reject. Yet they remain a very, very small minority, sort of on the fringes of Anglican culture of the South, trying to provide some type of a critique, but without much power in that critique. Now, the other thing we focused on was the way in which the supernatural world of evangelicals differed so much from the more rational, enlightened kind of Anglican religion. Remember the evangelicals in this chapter on the devil, I think I can't remember the exact title of the chapter, Raising the Devil, that's what it was. Heyrman paints such a beautiful picture of the enchantment of early 19th century evangelicalism. I mean, evangelicals in the early 19th century, and in many ways today, exist in a world where spirits and demons and devils and the Holy Spirit and angels, all of these things exist and have a powerful way of shaping religious identity in the period. And this is so different, again, from the Anglicans. I think Heyrman says something along the lines that, the Anglicans have removed this sense of the devil from everyday life because of their rationality. So again, we have this conflict of religious cultures going on in the early part of the 19th century in the South. This very kind of supernaturally driven, almost magical, although evangelicals would reject magic and the occult, but a sort of enchanted world versus the rather disenchanted form of religion in early American, early national, I should say, Anglicanism. So again, in these first two chapters, actually it's the prologue in the first chapter to the book, so much is there about this conflict of cultures. Even rituals become important here. While the rituals of Anglicanism were very liturgical, they were very social, they were very much about leisure and activity and so forth, the evangelicals respond with a very strange kind of culture to the 18th century mindset in which, the Baptists, for example, baptize adults. There's this sense that the evangelicals are willing to share their faith publicly, something Anglicans don't normally do. Or even the physical contact that Anglicans show, the sort of touching, right, of greeting one another with a holy kiss and hugging one another. All of these things are rituals that make them very, very foreign to Southern culture. So this is what we're beginning to explore. We'll probably have one more office hour on dealing with Heyrman's book. But again, a fascinating analysis of the way evangelicals, so far, according to Heyrman, from what we've read so far, a minority group, are beginning to grow and eventually come to define the South by, say, the eve of the Civil War. So we'll pick that story up a little bit more next office hours. So thanks for watching.